I rented a mountain cabin to get away for a night. Something followed me inside. It wasn't human. It made my body stop responding when I wanted it to. The cabin door closed behind me with a sound that felt heavier than it should have. It was solid, wood meeting frame, the kind of sound that tells you you're inside now, whether you meant to be or not. I stood there for a second with my backpack still on, listening to the quiet settle. Wind outside. The low, constant sound of trees moving against one another somewhere further up the slope. The area held no road noise, no power lines hummed, just the mountain doing what it did before people put buildings on it. The place felt ordinary rather than dramatic. It was a rental, one of those listings people use when they want silence and a fireplace and a view that looks good in photos. I'd driven up before dark, parked in the gravel turnout, and carried my things in without trouble. Everything inside looked normal. Single room, wood stove against the far wall, a small table with 2 chairs, a narrow staircase leading up to a loft bedroom. The air smelled like cold wood and old smoke. It felt clean. It felt quiet. I set my bag down and went through the usual motions, checking the windows, flicking light switches, testing the latch on the door. Everything worked. Everything stayed where it was supposed to. I was halfway through unpacking when I heard footsteps outside, slow, even, coming from uphill. I froze with my hands inside my bag. The steps moved without crunching. The gravel stayed still. The rhythm stayed even. Just weight moving steadily across the ground, as if the person walking knew exactly where to place their feet. I stepped closer to the window and pulled the curtain back a fraction. Someone was standing just beyond the edge of the porch light. Tall, broad shoulders, wrapped in a dark jacket that blended too well with the trees behind them. I couldn't see their face clearly, but I could tell they were looking straight at the cabin. At me. I let the curtain fall back into place. My first thought was that I'd misunderstood the listing, that this was shared land, a caretaker, a neighbor, someone checking the property. That explanation lasted until the knocking started. 3 slow taps, evenly spaced. I didn't answer right away. Evening, a voice called through the wood. It was the voice of a man, calm but rough, like it didn't get used often. Didn't mean to startle you. I stayed where I was. You the one staying here tonight? He asked. Yes, I said finally. I just got in. Roads clear? He asked. Yes. That's good, he said. Weather turns fast up here. I waited for him to leave. Instead, he stepped closer. I could hear the boards of the porch shift under his weight now. The sound carried through the door, low and solid. You mind if I come in for a minute? He asked, just to warm up. I looked at the latch. I'm sorry, I said. I'd rather not. Silence on the other side. Then, softly, almost thoughtfully, that's a shame. The handle turned. The pressure stayed light, just enough to test it. It didn't open. Well, the voice said, I'll be nearby. The steps moved away from the door, circling the cabin instead of retreating downhill. I heard them pass beneath the loft window, then fade into the trees. I didn't move for a long time. Eventually, I convinced myself it was nothing. A local, a hiker, someone curious. I locked the door, stoked the stove, and climbed the stairs to the loft. The mattress was thin but clean. I lay down fully dressed, listening to the wind rise outside. Sometime later, minutes, maybe longer, I heard movement below me. Breathing. Slow. Heavy. Close. It came from inside. I sat up. The main room was dark except for the dull orange glow of the stove. The glow reached the stairs and caught on something standing near the base. It didn't move. As my eyes adjusted, I could make out the shape of it. Taller than it should have been to stand there comfortably. Its head tilted slightly forward. Its arms hung at its sides, loose. It looked up. Its face came close to right. The placement of the features was familiar enough that my brain tried to accept it before it noticed the problems. The mouth was set too wide. The eyes reflected the firelight without blinking. When it smiled, the skin pulled tight over the teeth, like the expression required effort. "You locked the door," it said. I didn't answer. It took a step toward the stairs. The floor creaked under its weight, deeper and heavier than it should have. "That won't help," it said calmly. "Not here." I realized then that I had never opened the door for him. He stood inside anyway. I stayed where I was, one hand braced against the mattress, the other gripping the edge of the loft railing hard enough that my fingers hurt. The thing at the bottom of the stairs watched me without moving. Its chest rose and fell, slow and deep, as if it needed the air more than I did. Each breath sounded wet, like it was being dragged through something narrow. "You can come down," it said, "or you can stay there. It doesn't change much." Its voice was steady, certain. "I said I didn't want company," I replied. My throat felt dry, but the words came out clear enough. The thing's mouth shifted, not quite into a smile this time. The skin around it didn't sit properly when it moved, as if it had been stretched into place and never fully settled. "You let the fire burn," it said. That was enough. It made no sense. I knew that, but the way it said it made arguing feel pointless, like trying to correct someone who was already finished with the conversation. It placed one foot on the first stair. The wood bowed under the weight. The sound carried up through the structure of the cabin and into my legs. I felt it through the mattress. "Don't," I said. It paused. Its head tilted, the motion slow and deliberate, like it was studying how my face changed when I spoke. "You don't get to stop it," it said. It climbed another step. I backed away until my shoulders hit the slanted ceiling of the loft. The space suddenly felt smaller, lower, like it had settled while I wasn't looking. The thing's hands dragged lightly along the railing as it climbed, fingers bending where they should have broken, joints folding back into place with small, quiet sounds. It didn't seem to notice. Up close, I could see more of what was wrong. The jacket it wore wasn't just oversized. It was worn incorrectly, like it had been put on without understanding where the body ended and the fabric began. One sleeve sat too high on the arm. The other dragged past the wrist, hiding the hand entirely. Its boots were mismatched. One old hiking boot, scuffed and cracked. The other something thinner, softer, stretched unnaturally around the shape inside it. When it reached the top of the stairs, it stopped just short of the loft. We were almost level now. It leaned forward slightly. I caught the smell of it, damp earth, old leaves. "You're alone," it said. "That's why I chose you." I opened my mouth to answer. Nothing came out. My legs trembled as I shifted my weight. I hadn't realized how stiff they'd gone until then. The delay between telling them to move and feeling them respond was just long enough to make me panic. The thing noticed. Its eyes narrowed, in focus. "There it is," it said quietly. "You feel it now." I tried to step back again. My foot scraped the mattress instead, catching where I expected open space. The thing straightened. "That happens when I'm close," it said. "Your body listens before you do." It reached one long hand up and rested it on the edge of the loft floor. The wood dipped under the pressure, fibers creaking as they took the weight. The hand itself was wrong. The fingers bent at angles that didn't match the hand, in places that made my stomach turn. "I won't hurt you," it said. "That's not what I'm here for." "What do you want?" I asked. Its head tilted again. "I need the heat," it said. "I can't keep this body without it." The words landed heavily. It didn't explain further. It pulled itself fully into the loft. The space wasn't designed for something its size. Its shoulders brushed the ceiling, forcing it to hunch. When it moved, the bones beneath the skin shifted audibly, adjusting, settling. I pressed myself back against the wall. My heart pounded so hard it blurred my vision. "Look at me," it said. I didn't. The air felt thicker, harder to pull into my lungs. Each breath came with effort. My chest lagged behind the command to inhale. It waited. "People always look. Eventually," it said. "That's another thing that doesn't change." I raised my eyes despite myself. Its face had changed. The shift was small, hard to isolate. The proportions sat closer together now. The eyes rested more evenly in the sockets. The mouth moved with less strain. The shape stayed in place longer this time. "You see," it said. "Better already." I shook my head. "That isn't happening," I said. It watched me for a long moment. "This place allows it," it replied. "The rest doesn't matter." It stepped closer. The loft floor creaked beneath its weight. My knees buckled slightly. Strength drained out of them without warning. I caught myself against the wall. My fingers scraped uselessly against the wood. The thing watched. "Still standing," it said. "Good. That means I have time." "Time for what?" I asked. It leaned in, close enough that its breath washed over my face. Warm, damp. "To see what still answers to you," it said. Below us, the fire in the stove flared suddenly. Long, distorted shadows climbed the walls. One of them matched neither of us. The thing noticed my gaze, followed it, then let out a sound that might have been amusement. "Ah," it said. "That part's always messy." The shadow moved on its own, and I understood then that whatever had come inside the cabin hadn't come alone. The shadow peeled itself away from the wall slowly, like it was being lifted rather than cast. It stretched first, lengthening beyond the reach of the firelight, thinning and thickening in the wrong places. Then it condensed, drawing inward until it formed a shape that matched the thing in front of me almost, but not quite. The thing turned its head and regarded it with mild irritation. "You're early," it said. The shadow pressed closer, its edges bleeding across the floorboards and climbing the walls in uneven bands. Where it touched the wood, the grain darkened, as if damp had soaked in instantly. My knees buckled, and I slid down the wall onto the mattress. The delay between thought and movement had grown worse. When I tried to push myself back up, my arms responded sluggishly, like they were moving through thick water. The thing watched with interest. "That's the part most people don't expect," it said. "They think it's pain." It crouched in front of me, lowering itself until its face was level with mine. Up close, the resemblance to a man felt unsettling rather than reassuring. The skin held warmth, but it failed to behave like skin should. It stayed smooth where it should have creased and dull where sweat should have gathered. The shadow reached the edge of the loft and climbed, spreading upward without effort as it pulled itself closer to us. "What is it?" I asked. The words came out slurred and delayed. The thing glanced at the shadow, then back at me. "That part doesn't fit," it said. "I leave it behind sometimes. Tonight I didn't." The shadow pressed against the thing's back, and for a moment the two shapes overlapped imperfectly, like misaligned layers. The thing inhaled sharply, its chest expanding, its posture shifted. When it straightened, it stood more easily in the loft. Its shoulders cleared the ceiling. Its neck lengthened just enough to look right. At the same time, something loosened inside me. It felt like space opening where resistance used to be. My hands lay limp in my lap. I could feel them, but they no longer felt like tools. Just wait. "You won't die," it said, almost kindly. "People always think that's the worst outcome." It reached out and placed its palm against my chest. The pressure stayed firm and controlled, warm and grounding. My breathing stuttered, then steadied, not because I chose it, but because the rhythm changed. "There," it said. "That's better." My heart slowed too far. I tried to speak, but the word failed to reach my mouth. The thing withdrew its hand and tilted its head, listening. Outside, the wind shifted and pressed lower against the cabin walls. The fire downstairs burned evenly. "It's nearly done," it said. The shadow slid forward, pooling around my legs and climbing my torso. Where it touched, sensation dulled into absence, like those parts had never belonged to me. I could still see and still think. I understood exactly what was happening. I couldn't stop it. "You stay aware," the thing said quietly. The shadow reached my shoulders and paused as the thing hesitated. For the first time since it entered the cabin, it studied me closely, watching my face, my eyes, and the effort I made to move. It said. "You're keeping more control than usual." It stepped back. The shadow withdrew immediately, sliding off me and recoiling toward its feet. Sensation rushed back into my limbs unevenly, sharp and disordered, forcing a gasp from my chest. The thing watched me struggle to sit upright. "This place won't remember," it said, "but you will." My stomach dropped. "What does that mean?" I asked. It smiled, and this time the expression fit perfectly. "It means you'll feel me when the nights get cold," it said. "You'll notice when your body hesitates." It stepped toward the stairs. The shadow followed close behind, reduced and obedient. "People like you don't call it what it is," the thing added over its shoulder. "You say you never slept the same again. You say the mountain did something to you." It paused at the top of the steps and looked back one last time. "You'll be all right," it said. Then it descended, its footsteps heavy and sure. Moments later, the cabin door opened and closed below. The fire died down. The wind softened. I stayed where I was until morning. When the sun finally rose and light filled the cabin, everything looked ordinary again. No marks, no damage, no sign that anything had been there at all, except for me. I left the mountain before nightfall and never went back. Sometimes when the air turns cold without warning, my hands stop responding, and I remember how easily it could have kept me.